The day my mother-in-law accused me of cheating, I realized she'd rather see her son's marriage destroyed than let me belong to her family. I remember the exact moment it started. The kitchen was filled with the smell of cinnamon rolls, the kind my husband, David, loved on Sunday mornings. I was humming to myself, the radio playing softly, when the front door opened and my mother-in-law, Evelyn, swept in like a cold wind. She never knocked. She never waited for an invitation. She just appeared, her perfume sharp and her eyes sharper. "Good morning, Evelyn," I called, trying to keep my voice light. She didn't answer right away. She set her purse on the counter, her lips pursed as she looked around the kitchen. "You're up early," she finally said, her tone making it sound like an accusation. I smiled, wiping my hands on a towel. "Just wanted to surprise David. He's been working so hard lately." She sniffed, glancing at the clock. "He's lucky to have someone who cares so much. Not everyone is so attentive." I let her words hang in the air, refusing to let her get under my skin. I'd learned, over the years, that Evelyn's approval was a moving target, one I'd never quite hit, no matter how hard I tried. David and I had been married for 6 years. We met in college, both of us a little lost, a little lonely, and somehow we found each other. He was gentle, patient, the kind of man who listened more than he spoke. I loved him for that. I loved him for the way he made me feel seen, even when the rest of the world looked right through me. Evelyn, on the other hand, had never quite forgiven me for marrying her only son. She made her feelings clear from the start, subtle digs at family dinners, backhanded compliments about my cooking, pointed questions about when we'd have children. I tried to brush it off, tried to remind myself that she was just protective, that she'd come around eventually. But as the years passed, her resentment only grew. She called David every day, sometimes twice, always with some new complaint or worry. She showed up unannounced, rearranged my kitchen, criticized my housekeeping. She made it clear in 1,000 small ways that I was an outsider in my own home. Still, I tried. For David's sake, for the sake of peace, I tried. That Sunday morning, as I set the cinnamon rolls on the table, I told myself it was just another visit, just another test of patience. I had no idea how quickly everything would unravel. David came downstairs, his hair still damp from the shower, a sleepy smile on his face. "Something smells amazing," he said, wrapping his arms around me. Evelyn watched us, her eyes narrowed. "I hope you're not spoiling him too much, dear. Men need to learn to take care of themselves." David laughed, kissing my cheek. "I'm a lucky man, Mom, you know that." She forced a smile, but I could see the tension in her jaw. She poured herself a cup of coffee, her movements precise, controlled. We sat down to breakfast, the three of us making small talk about work, the weather, the neighbor's new puppy. Evelyn asked about my job at the community center, her questions laced with skepticism. "Do you really enjoy working with those people?" she asked, her eyebrow arched. I smiled, refusing to rise to the bait. "I do. It's rewarding, helping people get back on their feet." She nodded, her lips tight. "Well, I suppose someone has to do it." David shot me an apologetic look, squeezing my hand under the table. I squeezed back, grateful for his silent support. After breakfast, Evelyn insisted on helping with the dishes. I tried to protest, but she waved me off, her hands already in the sink. "You go relax," she said, her tone dismissive. "I'll take care of this." I retreated to the living room, curling up with a book, but I couldn't focus. I could hear her in the kitchen, muttering to herself, opening and closing drawers, rearranging things just so. I tried to let it go, tried to remind myself that it was just her way. But something felt different that morning. Something colder, more deliberate. When she finally left, the house felt lighter, as if a storm had passed. David found me in the living room, pulling me into his arms. "I'm sorry," he whispered. She's always been like this." I nodded, resting my head on his shoulder. "I know, I just wish she'd give us a chance." He kissed my forehead, his voice soft. "We'll get through it, together." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that love was enough. But I had no idea what Evelyn was planning. No idea how far she would go to tear us apart. The week after that Sunday breakfast, I tried to shake off the uneasy feeling Evelyn had left behind. I threw myself into my work at the community center, helping organize a food drive and tutoring a few of the local kids in math. I came home tired but satisfied, grateful for the small victories that made the days feel worthwhile. David was busy too, working late on a big project for his firm. Most nights he'd come home after dark, his shoulders slumped, his eyes weary. I did my best to make home a refuge for him, warm meals, soft lights, a quiet place to land. We talked about our days, shared stories, laughed about the little things. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. But Evelyn's presence lingered, like a shadow in the corners of our home. She called David every evening, her voice low and urgent, always with some new worry or complaint. Sometimes I'd hear him defending me. "No, Mom, she's not out late. She's working. Yes, she made dinner. Yes, she's here with me now." Other times he'd just listen, his face tight, his answers clipped. One night, as I was folding laundry, David came into the bedroom, his brow furrowed. "Mom said she saw you at the coffee shop this afternoon," he said, his voice uncertain. "She said you were with someone." I looked up, surprised. I was at the coffee shop, but I was alone. I stopped in for a tea after work just to unwind. He nodded, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. "She said you were laughing with a man. She thought it was strange." I felt a flicker of annoyance. "David, I was alone. Maybe she saw someone else, or maybe she just wants to stir things up." He sighed, sitting on the edge of the bed. "I know. I told her she must have been mistaken, but she sounded so sure." I set the laundry aside, sitting next to him. "Do you believe me?" He looked at me, his eyes softening. "Of course I do. I just wish she'd stop." I squeezed his hand, trying to push away the worry that was starting to take root. "She will, eventually." But deep down, I wasn't so sure. The next day, I found Evelyn's perfume lingering in the hallway when I got home from work. She stopped by, unannounced as usual, and left a note on the kitchen counter. "Stopped in to check on things. Hope you're keeping busy. Evelyn." I frowned, glancing around the kitchen. Everything looked normal. But I couldn't shake the feeling that she'd been searching for something. I checked the drawers, the cabinets, even the laundry basket. Nothing seemed out of place, but the sense of intrusion was unmistakable. That evening, David was quiet at dinner. He picked at his food, barely touching his plate. "Everything okay?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. He nodded, forcing a smile. "Just tired, long day." I let it go, not wanting to push. But as I cleared the table, I caught him glancing at his phone, reading a message with a frown. Later, as we got ready for bed, he hesitated in the doorway. "Mom said she found something in the house today. She said it looked suspicious." I turned to face him, my patience wearing thin. "What did she find?" He shrugged, looking uncomfortable. "She wouldn't say, just that she thought you should be more careful about what you leave lying around." I felt a chill run through me. "David, I have no idea what she's talking about. I haven't left anything out." He nodded, but I could see the worry in his eyes. "I believe you. I don't know what she's trying to do." I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. I thought about Evelyn's visits, her questions, her constant presence in our lives. I wondered what she was looking for, what she hoped to find. And for the first time, I wondered if she was trying to set a trap. The next morning, I decided to call my friend Priya, who managed the coffee shop. I needed to know if Evelyn's story had any truth to it, or if she was just spinning tailies. "Priya, do you remember if I was with anyone on Tuesday afternoon?" I asked, my voice low. She laughed. "You? No, you were alone. You sat by the window with your book, just like always. I even brought you an extra cookie." I thanked her, relief flooding through me. At least I had someone who could vouch for me if it ever came to that. But the feeling of being watched, of being judged, didn't go away. I started to notice little things. My shoes moved from their usual spot, a drawer left open in the bathroom, a faint scent of Evelyn's perfume on the guest towels. It was as if she was marking her territory, reminding me that this house, this family, would never truly be mine. One evening, as I was setting the table for dinner, I heard a noise in the backyard. I looked out the window and saw Evelyn standing by the fence, her phone in her hand, snapping photos of the house. I stepped outside, my heart pounding. "Evelyn, what are you doing?" She turned, her smile tight. "Just admiring the garden. You've let the roses go wild." I forced a smile, my hands clenched at my sides. "I like them that way." She shrugged, tucking her phone into her purse. "Suit yourself. Some people prefer order." She left without another word, leaving me standing in the fading light, a knot of dread tightening in my chest. It was a Thursday afternoon, when everything came crashing down. I was at the community center, helping Mrs. Alvarez fill out job applications, when my phone buzzed with a message from David. "Call me, now." My heart skipped. I excused myself, stepping into the hallway and dialed his number. He answered on the first ring, his voice tight and strained. "Can you come home?" he asked. "Right now, Mom's here. She says she found something." I felt a cold wave of dread. "What is it?" He hesitated. "Just please come home." The drive home felt endless, every red light a fresh stab of anxiety. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw Evelyn's car parked at an angle, as if she'd arrived in a hurry. Inside, the house was silent except for the low murmur of voices in the living room. I found David standing by the window, his arms crossed, his face pale. Evelyn sat on the sofa, a small plastic bag in her lap. She looked up as I entered, her eyes cold and triumphant. "There you are." I forced myself to stay calm. "What's going on?" Evelyn held up the bag. Inside was a man's watch, sleek, expensive, definitely not David's. I stared at it, confused. "I found this under your side of the bed," she said, her voice sharp. "Care to explain?" I blinked, my mind racing. "I've never seen that before. It's not David's. I don't know how it got there." She arched an eyebrow, her lips curling into a smirk. "Really? Because I could have sworn I saw you at the coffee shop with a man last week." Laughing, touching his arm. "And now this? It's all starting to make sense." David looked at me, his eyes searching mine. "Is it true? Were you with someone?" I shook my head, my voice trembling. "No, I was alone, I swear. I have no idea where that watch came from." Evelyn leaned back, her satisfaction obvious. "Well, it certainly looks suspicious. Maybe you should tell David the truth before someone else does." I felt my cheeks burn with anger and humiliation. "You planted that, didn't you? You've never wanted me here. You've always tried to make me look bad." She gasped, feigning offense. "How dare you accuse me of something like that? I'm just trying to protect my son." David stepped between us, his voice shaking. "Mom, stop. This isn't helping." She stood, her eyes flashing. "I'm only doing what any mother would do. I won't let her ruin your life." I turned to David, desperate for him to believe me. "You know me. You know I would never cheat on you. Please, you have to believe me." He hesitated, torn between us. "I want to, but it doesn't look good." I felt tears sting my eyes. "I don't know how that watch got there, but I promise you I'm telling the truth." Evelyn shook her head, her voice icy. "Maybe you should spend some time apart. Think about what you really want." She swept out of the room, leaving a trail of expensive perfume and chaos in her wake. David sat down heavily, his head in his hands. "I don't know what to think." I knelt beside him, my voice breaking. "Please, David, don't let her do this to us." He looked at me, his eyes full of pain. "I need some time." He left the room, the door closing softly behind him. I sat on the floor, the plastic bag still in my hand, my world unraveling around me. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying the scene in my mind, searching for any clue, any detail I might have missed. I thought about Evelyn's visits, her constant hovering, the way she always seemed to be searching for something to use against me. I wiped my tears and stood up, determination hardening inside me. I wasn't going to let her destroy my marriage. I wasn't going to let her lies become my truth. First, I called the coffee shop. I knew the manager, Priya, who'd seen me there countless times. I explained the situation, my voice trembling but clear. "Priya, do you remember last Thursday afternoon? Was I alone? She didn't hesitate. Of course you were. You sat by the window reading. I even brought you an extra cookie because you looked tired. Relief flooded me. Thank you, Priya. That means more than you know. Next, I turned my attention to the watch. I examined it closely, looking for any clue that might prove it wasn't mine or David. On the back, I noticed an engraving. To RJ with love, M. I didn't know anyone with those initials. I snapped a photo and sent it to David, along with a message. Look at the engraving. This isn't ours. Please just look. While I waited for his reply, I searched the house for anything else out of place. I checked the guest room, the laundry, even the trash. In the guest bathroom, tucked behind the cleaning supplies, I found a small velvet pouch, the kind that comes with expensive jewelry. Inside was a receipt from a local jeweler, dated 2 days before Evelyn's last visit. The name on the receipt was Margaret Johnson, Evelyn's maiden name. My hands shook as I took photos of everything. I knew what I had to do. The next morning, I woke to a house that felt colder than ever. David had slept in the guest room. I heard him moving around early, the sound of drawers opening and closing, the shower running longer than usual. I wanted to go to him, to beg him to believe me, but I knew I needed more than words. I needed proof. I spent the morning gathering everything I had. The photo of the watch's engraving, the receipt from the jewelry store, the velvet pouch, and the text from Priya. I printed out the email she'd sent me after our call, confirming I'd been alone at the coffee shop. I even found a security camera on the corner of the street, just outside the shop. I called the owner, a man named Mr. Patel, and explained my situation. He was sympathetic, and after a few hours, he sent me a short video clip. There I was, sitting alone by the window, reading just as Priya had said. I put everything in a folder and waited for David to come home. The hours crawled by, every minute heavy with dread and hope. I cleaned the house, baked a batch of cinnamon rolls, anything to keep my hands busy and my mind from spiraling. When David finally walked through the door, he looked exhausted. He set his briefcase down and stood in the entryway, as if unsure whether he was welcome. "Can we talk?" I asked, my voice gentle. He nodded, following me to the kitchen. I set the folder on the table and slid it toward him. "What's this?" he asked, his voice wary. "Proof," I said quietly. "Proof that I'm telling the truth." He opened the folder and began to read. He looked at the photos, the receipt, the email, the video stills. His hands shook as he turned the pages. When he finished, he looked up at me, tears in his eyes. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. "I should have believed you. I didn't know what to think. She's my mother. I never thought she'd go this far." I reached across the table, taking his hand in mine. "I know, but you have to see her for who she is, David. She's not protecting you. She's trying to control you. She's trying to control us." He nodded, his grip tightening. "I'll talk to her, I promise." That evening, David called Evelyn and asked her to come over. She arrived, her expression smug, as if she'd already won. David confronted her with the watch, the engraving, the receipt. At first, she denied everything, her voice rising in outrage. But as he pressed her, her defenses began to crack. "I just wanted to protect you," she finally said, her voice trembling. "She's not right for you. She never was." David shook his head, disappointment etched into every line of his face. "You went too far, Mom. You tried to ruin my marriage. I can't forgive that." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears, but David stood firm. "You need to leave, and you need to think about what you've done." She left, her shoulders slumped, the door closing behind her with a finality that echoed through the house. After she was gone, David and I sat together in the quiet. He apologized again and again, his voice breaking. "I'm so sorry. I let her get between us. I let her make me doubt you." I hugged him, feeling the weight of the past weeks begin to lift. "We're stronger than this, David, but we have to set boundaries. We have to protect what we have." He nodded, determination in his eyes. "We will, I promise." The next day, David called his sister, Laura, and told her everything. She was furious with Evelyn, but she also offered support. "You two deserve to be happy," she said. "Don't let Mom ruin that." Word spread quickly, as it always does in families. Some relatives called to offer support, others to gossip. I ignored the whispers, focusing on the people who mattered. At the community center, Mrs. Alvarez brought me a casserole, pressing my hand in hers. "You're strong, Mija. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." I smiled, grateful for her kindness, but inside I was still reeling. David and I tried to find our way back to each other. We talked late into the night, sorting through the mess Evelyn had left behind. He apologized over and over, his voice breaking. "I should have believed you from the start. I'm so sorry." I forgave him, but trust is a fragile thing. It took time for the hurt to fade, for the doubt to stop creeping in at the edges of our conversations. We agreed to set boundaries with Evelyn, no more unannounced visits, no more private conversations with David that I wasn't part of. It was hard, but it was necessary. Evelyn, for her part, retreated. She stopped coming by, stopped calling as often. When she did reach out, it was stiff and formal, as if she was talking to strangers. Laura tried to talk to her, but Evelyn refused to admit she'd done anything wrong. "I was just trying to protect my son," she insisted. "She's not family. She never will be." Those words stung, but I refused to let them define me. I leaned on my friends, on my work, on the small joys that made life worth living. I baked cinnamon rolls on Sundays, just for David and me. I planted new flowers in the garden, letting their colors remind me that beauty can grow even after the harshest winter. The days after Evelyn's confession were some of the hardest I'd ever lived through. The house felt different, quieter, but not in a peaceful way. It was the hush that comes after a storm, when you're left to count the broken branches and wonder what will grow back. David was distant at first, moving through the house like a man carrying a weight he couldn't put down. He called his mother every day, but she rarely answered. When she did, their conversations were short and tense. I could hear the pain in his voice, the disbelief that his own mother could do something so cruel. Word spread quickly, as it always does in families. David's sister, Laura, called from out of state, her voice tight with anger. "She tried to ruin your marriage? I can't believe it. What is wrong with her?" I heard the hurt in Laura's voice, too. The realization that their mother's love came with conditions, that she could turn on any of us if it suited her. At the community center, people noticed the change in me. Mrs. Alvarez brought me a casserole, pressing my hand in hers. "You're strong, Mija. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." I smiled, grateful for her kindness, but inside I was still reeling. David and I tried to find our way back to each other. We talked late into the night, sorting through the mess Evelyn had left behind. He apologized over and over, his voice breaking. "I should have believed you from the start. I'm so sorry." I forgave him, but trust is a fragile thing. It took time for the hurt to fade, for the doubt to stop creeping in at the edges of our conversations. We agreed to set boundaries with Evelyn, no more unannounced visits, no more private conversations with David that I wasn't part of. It was hard, but it was necessary. Evelyn, for her part, retreated. She stopped coming by, stopped calling as often. When she did reach out, it was stiff and formal, as if she was talking to strangers. Laura tried to talk to her, but Evelyn refused to admit she'd done anything wrong. "I was just trying to protect my son," she insisted. "She's not family. She never will be." Those words stung, but I refused to let them define me. I leaned on my friends, on my work, on the small joys that made life worth living. I baked cinnamon rolls on Sundays, just for David and me. I planted new flowers in the garden, letting their colors remind me that beauty can grow even after the harshest winter. One Sunday, David and I went to church together for the first time in months. The pastor spoke about forgiveness, about the courage it takes to let go of anger and choose love instead. I felt the words settle in my heart, heavy and true. After the service, a few women from the congregation came up to me, their eyes kind. "We heard what happened," one of them said quietly. "You're not alone. Families are complicated, but you're part of ours now." I thanked them, feeling a warmth I hadn't felt in weeks. Maybe I'd lost Evelyn's approval, but I'd gained something better, a sense of belonging, a reminder that family isn't just about blood. David and I started to heal, slowly. We took walks in the evenings, talking about our dreams for the future. We laughed again, sometimes through tears, but laughter all the same. We promised each other that we'd never let anyone come between us again. But the scars remained. There were days when I still felt the sting of Evelyn's betrayal, when I wondered if I'd ever truly be accepted. There were days when David missed his mother, when he grieved the loss of the woman he thought she was. We faced those days together, holding on to each other, choosing love over fear. Autumn arrived, and with it, a sense of quiet renewal. The leaves outside our window turned gold and crimson, and the air grew crisp. David and I found a new rhythm, one built on honesty, boundaries, and a hard-won trust. We talked more, not just about the big things, but about the small, everyday moments that make a marriage strong. We learned to check in with each other, to listen, to forgive. Evelyn stayed away for a while. At first, her absence was a relief. The house felt lighter, the tension gone. But as the weeks passed, I saw the sadness in David's eyes. He missed his mother, even after everything she'd done. I understood that kind of love, the kind that endures even when it's been tested. One afternoon, as I was raking leaves in the yard, I saw Evelyn's car pull up to the curb. She sat behind the wheel for a long time before finally getting out, her posture stiff, her face drawn. I met her at the gate, my heart pounding. She didn't look me in the eye. "Is David home?" I shook my head. "He's at work, but you can come in if you want." She hesitated, then nodded. We sat on the porch, the silence between us heavy. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I never wanted to hurt you. I was afraid. Afraid of losing my son, afraid of being alone." I listened, letting her words settle. "You almost did lose him, Evelyn. You almost lost both of us." She nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "I know, I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed you to know." I took a deep breath, feeling the anger and hurt begin to loosen their grip. "I don't know if I can forget what you did, but I can try to forgive, for David's sake, for all our sakes." She looked at me then, really looked at me, and for the first time I saw the fear and regret in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. We sat together for a while, watching the leaves fall, letting the silence do the work that words couldn't. David came home that evening to find us still on the porch. He looked from me to his mother, uncertainty in his eyes. I stood and took his hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "We talked," I said simply. He nodded, relief flooding his face. He hugged his mother, and for a moment I saw the boy he used to be, the one who just wanted his family to be whole. In the weeks that followed, things didn't go back to the way they were, but they moved forward. Evelyn called before visiting. She apologized in her own way by bringing over homemade soup and asking about my work. She never said the words "I was wrong," but her actions spoke for her. David and I grew stronger. We learned that love isn't just about the good times, but about weathering the storms together. We learned that forgiveness is a choice you make every day, sometimes in small ways, sometimes in ways that change everything. I found peace in the routines of our life, baking on Sundays, tending the garden, laughing with David over dinner. I let go of the need for Evelyn's approval, choosing instead to build my own sense of belonging, one day at a time. Sometimes, the people who hurt us most are the ones we want so badly to love us back. I never thought I'd be framed for something I didn't do, least of all by my own mother-in-law. But life has a way of testing the bonds we build, and sometimes it's the truth that sets us free, even when it comes at a cost. If you've ever felt like an outsider in your own family, or if you've had to fight for your place at the table, I hope you know you're not alone. Forgiveness isn't easy, and trust doesn't grow back overnight. But with patience, honesty, and a little bit of grace, healing is possible, even after the deepest betrayal. Would you have stood your ground, or would you have walked away? Have you ever had to prove your innocence to someone who should have believed you? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe and share it with someone who might need a little hope tonight. Thank you for listening and for being part of this family. Until next time, take care of yourself, and remember, sometimes the hardest battles lead to the strongest love.